Greetings, Mark Orang here, publisher of The Sun. And today my guest is Planning Board candidate Eric Corbett. Eric, how are you?
Good, how are you, Mark?
Good, good to see you.
Good to see you, thanks for having me.
Yeah, we've been interviewing the candidates, and all these interviews can be seen at conwaydailysun.com and on Valley Vision. Bill Edmonds has been picking them up. So just to recap a little bit, there's for the planning board, there's a 1-year term, and Ted Phillips is the only candidate for that.
Correct.
So you are in competing for, and you're an incumbent, but you're competing for, there are 2 3-year terms, and as yourself, Steve Steiner and Ray Shakir, who I interviewed last week, and then has Ben Corbett, who declined an interview, and Nat Lucy, who's actually out of the country. Yep, so it's just a one-on-one here.
Yeah,
so you get 30 minutes all by yourself. So so what do you, you've been on the planning board for what now?
3 years. This was my first term. So the first few months, few years, so it was it's a steep learning curve right off the bat. But
what do you think you've most learned? Whether what the experience has kind of helps you?
All the details that you don't think of, things you don't know about site plans, especially site plan review, the little things that you don't think you don't notice, but so the minutia behind some of it.
Is there anything in of all the things that you've done? Are you working on the master plan too?
Yes. Yep.
All right. Is that of all the things you've been involved in, what interests you most?
I think the things that are the biggest challenges facing us are obviously housing. So as part of the master plan, or the next step from the master plan, we have the housing opportunity and planning grants that we've already been awarded, I believe, from the state. And so the subcommittee from the planning board on that going forward started meeting yesterday. And so the overview of that committee and that grant is to implement the master plan, which was one of the downfalls, I guess, of the last one, that they drew up the plan and didn't necessarily follow through.
Now, why do you think, I mean, when is the master plan going to be finished?
The plan is to have the final draft posted, I believe, April 15th, and then at our April 25th meeting, the ratification vote.
Okay, and the ratification vote is from the planning board?
Yes.
All right, but in the meantime, I know there are a couple of, I don't know if they're public hearings, but a couple of public invites.
Yeah, last night we had a public hearing as part of our meeting at Town Hall, and then again the 15th, if there's any other minor changes that.
How many people were there last night?
8 or 10, I think.
All right. So these, as always, with any governmental thing, you'd think that people are more interested in it, but they aren't.
We got a bigger crowd at Cranmore a few weeks ago with a bigger public event at the new lodge up there, where we had poster boards and displays of what's included in the plan. And the same thing with when we started it all at Tuckerman's a year or so ago. We had the same thing. We had a much bigger crowd there than we do at Town Hall, I guess.
Well, I guess
more interesting venue.
Right, I was going to say they don't serve beer at Town Hall.
Yeah. So.
But was there anything from the public that has influenced or that surprised you from the public, or that influenced the planning board, you think?
We all knew that housing was the biggest thing impacting everything from individuals' actual housing to businesses and schools and town government. So I think we all expected and saw that. Some of the data that the SE group pulled in about commute times for Conway residents working out of town and other folks commuting into town surprised a lot of us how many people drive an hour each way every day, either in or out of Conway. So because there's that mismatch, I guess, of jobs in town that pay enough to to be able to live here versus having to travel further away. So that was a bit of a surprise.
Yeah, there's a lot of people, and I've said this before, but in Jackson Hole, because I was out there vacationing a year ago now, almost a year, and it's a very similar, it's like a western version of Conway, of North Conway in particular. I mean, the village feel to it. And they're isolated, even more isolated. They don't have like a Madison and a Freiburg, and they've lost population. They've literally lost population. It's about 10,000, and you know, and they're you know, locals like here, and sort of in a on steroids way, because a lot of the housing is being bought up by second homeowners, and the average price in Jackson Hole is $5 million. So you know, obviously it prices
a whole
out.
nother level. But I know, yeah, the Zillow alerts that I've gotten on our house in Conway have been eye-opening on what they think it is worth. So
Time to sell.
well, my wife joked the first time that, well, we're going to go move in with my mom for a while, because we'll take the money and run. But we don't know where else we would go at this point. So
Yeah. If only we all could time the crash, right?
yeah, if we knew when it was coming next.
Hey, so why don't we go through a couple of the articles that are zoning related?
Okay.
All righty.
Yeah. I'm just gonna.
You want to
so
start, or
well,
I?
I'm just so I can read
All right.
along.
I'm just going to bring them up in general terms. One is the I think right off the bat is number 3 is the moratorium, the hotel moratorium. And I may be the only one in town who thinks that we shouldn't support the moratorium, because I think it's I think you should let the marketplace work its way. And also there are a couple of properties. I know Ashok Patel, who owns the Red Jacket in Yankee Clipper, he wanted to build in Yankee Clipper anyway. He wanted to build some housing along with that if he could expand the footprint, but he can't. So it is a little bit of an irony there, but
yeah. I remember, I think offline after a meeting, I asked, like, can we just say no to some of these projects? And everyone laughed. You can't do that in New Hampshire. It's live free or die. But someone did some research, and the state does allow us to, under extreme circumstances, I guess, propose a moratorium like we have. But it can only be approved, or it can be shut down by the voters. It can only be for 1 year at a time. So we thought that with the crazy housing market and the problem with STRs that we can't quite get our hands around, and then also the explosion in hotel construction, that all along with the upcoming master plan, we needed to kind of hit pause while we drew up the new master plan and then work to implement what it calls for as far as zoning.
And I was on the impression last year when it passed, it was mostly because it was just too much too fast,
and
you know. But now I understand, and it's not more clearly about it, is that part of that is just what you said, Eric, is that once the master plan is in, then ordinances could be created, which would apparently affect that commercial district and hotels. But do you know what specific ordinances?
I don't have a copy of I should have brought a copy of the master plan.
But I mean, what's in general? I mean, would it be more, do you think master plan is going to restrict them to a certain area, which they're already restricted to anyway, or what?
Well, I know one thing that would affect a lot of the bigger developments would be an increase in green space, which we've already implemented a bit, but the groundwater protection part of the master plan, I think, will limit how much construction, how much can be done within, I think we're going to 100 feet of the river. So it'll cut back on what lots can be used. So I think there probably will be some more tighter restrictions going forward. The hotels that have been being built these last couple of years have been in the works for 4 or 5 years sometimes. So it's a long way to get to where we're at with the new hotel going up. It seems like every couple of months. So,
right. But do you think it actually could restrict the number of hotels? I guess I'm not clear. Like, I mean, I understand the setback from the river, but they're not building hotels on the river.
Well, the reason the one that's right up against the road is because that lot, they can't build further off the road because of the river and the floodplain and the wetlands. So that's why it's so close to the road in that case. And so it'll kind of push everything up, but we'll also have setbacks on the road. So it may limit the total number of hotels, at least the large ones that we will have. Hopefully we can kind of keep it manageable.
So that, I mean, what you're suggesting is that if all this had gone through, the one that's close to the road, which I guess is a Hilton, may not have been able to. Yeah,
they met the guidelines we had, and they had good engineers that used every square inch that they could use and got it in there. And that was all based on regulations from 2 or 3 years ago, I think we saw it. So they did make changes to the architecture, the look of the building at our request, but the
I mean, it is very
footprint.
close to the
Yeah.
road, and I know everybody doesn't like it, and I have to admit, I'm the minority of one. It doesn't bother me so much, because like right next door is the old Whitesides building, which is probably the least attractive building in town, and no offense to John Whiteside Sr. for sure, because that was back in whenever that thing was built in the 60s or 70s. But are they going to put trees in front of the hotel?
I don't remember what the site plan
It seems like there's got to probably
called for.
something there.
We try to get street trees everywhere we can.
Yeah.
I know recently the electric co-op has kind of worked against us on that front along the strip, so I'd have to look at that site plan.
Right. So
to
they
remember.
they were cutting some limbs, right, that you guys were not happy about?
Well, they took some whole trees down without telling anyone, and we are telling builders you got to have street trees, and then power companies coming in and saying no, you got to take these trees down. So the selectmen are working things out with the electric.
Well,
co-op.
it's always better to ask forgiveness than permission,
I guess
right?
so, yeah.
All right, so that's the moratorium, the overlay, and I think, Rob, you have a photo, image of the overlay district, and that is on the north-south road looking from south to north, right? And there's Puddin Pond on the right, and it's a 250-foot swath, and so it's basically done preventively, right? Just to make sure that building
There's
can't encroach
no
on
more
that.
building.
Yeah.
Yeah, that Tractor Supply is as far north as anything will be built, and then yeah, nothing can be built within that range to preserve that short stretch of a scenic byway. That was the original intention, I think, of North-South Road.
Right.
It was here when I got here, so I'm not sure what the builders meant at first, but I've been told that was the purpose, was not a lot of driveways, not a lot of congestion and construction, and so
Yeah.
I know.
It's hard to believe. Paul D was in the other day, and he's been around as long as I have, so we were talking about it. But that line of trees when you're going north on the north-south road, those were planted by the state to shield the bypass where the rec path is now. And it's amazing that they were going to put another road right there.
Yeah, the bypass was pretty much dead when I came to town, so I'm not 100% sure, but someone told me that same thing yesterday, that
Yeah.
they were going to, plan was to squeeze another road in there, which seems unbelievable now.
Well, for those of us who've been along in the bypass, we say the bypass is never dead. They'll bring it back. It'll come back. All right, so there's that. And then a lot of the, for voters, a lot of the articles on the beginning of the warrant, like 4 through 17, or quite a few of them are basically what I would call housekeeping articles,
Yeah,
where they're definitions, right? So,
correct. Yeah, the plan is that by clearly stating what these definitions are, it streamlines the process for developers and for Ryan and Holly at Town Hall, that everyone knows what
Yeah,
charitable organization is.
Right.
Everyone knows what it is, and then also if things ever go to court, that we've learned, I guess, the hard way, that the state Supreme Court likes finely detailed definitions.
Yeah.
So if we leave any kind of wiggle room in things, a lawyer or a judge will define it for us, and we may not.
and these are all
agree.
voted,
So-
these are all recommended unanimously by the planning board.
Yeah.
So not that we can influence voters at all, but I think they're basically just housekeeping, check, 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 check.
Yeah, there's some of
support
them.
the planning
We
board.
were surprised that we didn't have these definitions on the books already, and it's that sort of thing you think everyone agrees with, but then someone raises a question
Right.
or finds another definition in the dictionary, and then you spend half an hour deciding on which definition to use. So
Or you spend thousands of dollars
thousands
in
of
court.
dollars, but if the voters say it's this, then it's this, and you don't have to worry about that going forward.
All right, so let's get back to the ones that are a little more maybe controversial. There's outdoor dining, which isn't. There's one about kennels, which we're not get into, but the signs, number 19, which is signs, and it doesn't, the article itself doesn't really specify what's in it. You have to
Right.
go to the town website, and then there's the whole explanation, because it's long.
Mm-hmm.
So critical of that, and this thing was from the murals. It's trying to clarify murals and signs.
Yeah.
But to me, what's critical in there is says 2%. The murals on the front facade, and I'm questioning this. Is like, how do you define a facade? shall not exceed 25% of the area of which the mural is located. So that's, to me, that's a little squirrely. And Rob, if you get the front of Levitt's there, see what that now.
That still might be more than 25%.
But what is
tape measure out? It's hard to tell.
Well, on the front facade. So one thing is that how do you, and I'm going to play lawyer here, Eric. But
Right,
how do you decide what a facade is? Is a facade an entrance, or to start with? I consider that an entrance, not a facade.
Well, I would consider the facade the side that you enter on, right?
A facade? I don't know. Rob, what's the definition
That's one of those
facade?
definitions where I don't know if that was defined here or not.
And then 25% of the area of which the mural is located. So 25%, and if that's the whole thing is a facade, which I don't think it is personally, then that thing up there can't occupy more than 25%. And that would probably be about right if you consider the whole building a facade. Right?
Yeah, that would be, if you include, I didn't realize it was one building to the right. But it looks like now it looks like it's one building. So, but
so to me, that's like, because most murals, when you see murals out there in the world, they take 80% of a facade. So how did you know any? Can you explain that? Like, how did you come up with 25%?
I don't remember how we got to the 25% number right now. It was.
That's a while ago.
Yeah, it was definitely a few months back that we came up with the numbers, and I don't remember the.
All right.
I have to go back in the minutes in the video.
Okay, sure. So that to me is a questionable one just because of that.
There's no like regulation of the content of what's in it in that ordinance. So it's more to do with the
size.
Geometry and size, not what it's showing or if it's.
Right, and part of the detail with the definition is it does say, because I just read it, because it's on the website and it is, a page and a half long. It does say it can't convey any commercial message. So, I mean, that's clear. All right, so let's move along. So how about the shoreline one? This is something that actually I'm involved in, and I think hopefully this will pass, but it tightens up the shoreline, and I just happen to have a photo of it. So this shows you, this is something that just happened a month ago on Conway Lake, where you're not supposed to cut anything within 50 feet, and obviously that's been cut, and which has nothing to do with this ordinance, because the ordinance just tightens up what's already in existence. But I just wanted to show that because we have the photo, and I will say, hats off to Nicholas, the inspector. He's just doing a really good job following up on this, and he's issued a cease and desist, and the owner has to repair the land and all that. So that's that. 22 is, and I'm bringing this one up because I'm involved with this one.
This was the one that I was alone.
You were the only one. So this is the
guess.
short-term rental thing, and the boards don't like it. And this basically says that if you rent more than 30 days a calendar year, you're qualified as basically a commercial place, and you have to have higher standards, safety standards. And you were the only one, bless your heart, on the planning board that that voted for it.
Yeah, I think everybody liked some of it, but there was concerns about the inspections and the building code requirements, and that we don't necessarily have authority to change state building codes, I think was the concern. But I thought it was worth trying to apply the whole thing, and if we need, and we've been assured by the town council that it can be severable if we could take out the parts that in court it could be decided that this part's not legal, you can't do this, but we'll keep this part. So that's why I thought it was worth trying it. Hopefully we can keep the good parts, and if we have to jettison part of it,
well, one thing that,
then so be it. But we can stick with what we think would be helpful and think what's good.
and one part that I've learned, because Chris Meyer, who's the town moderator, but the lawyer who wrote this thing, is that if the one part is define short-term rentals. So even if the other part about conforming to the state standards, as the selectmen don't decide to follow through, by even defining short-term rentals, a case could be made that unless you've registered under the current town inspection program, then you're not grandfathered.
Yeah.
So there's two bites of the apple here for some enforcement.
Yeah, that's why I thought it was worth trying to get it in place, and yeah, if we can get everybody like registered, then we know who's who and who's got where they are. And if we have to jettison part of it that you don't have standing to change, then all right. But it's better to try and fail than to not even try.
Well, there we go.
So
So you're not. Do you want? Can you share with us what Jason, the lawyer, said in non-public session?
no, no, but we've been
Come
assured that
on.
if
You're only
need
on-
be, it can be severed,
Yeah.
and we can keep the parts that are legal, and the parts that a judge might determine are illegal can go. But,
Okay. Well, good. I'm glad you were enlightened enough. I'm going to consider you the most enlightened.
I don't know if
board
I'm supposed to
member.
say that now that I think
Yeah,
of it. But,
That's all right. The other one, so that's, there's one, 23 is another sign one, and that's related to the, and I'm speaking for Cranmore, and I shouldn't, but it's their, I think they sponsored that
yeah,
amendment, and it's really to clean up their trail signs, right?
yeah, I think if they have a Cranmore logo on a trail sign, then it's considered, or maybe not even if there's a logo, but the trail signs, I guess, are considered part of their signage. And the only objection was to giving them like carte blanche to just disregard the signage ordinances.
Now, where did
And,
you, this was a 1-5-1 vote, 1-4-5 against, and 1 abstention.
Yeah,
Were you the one of the against?
yeah, I was one of the 5. I don't know who
Yeah.
was for it, who was abstention, but I think Mark Hansel said, we trust you, Ben, and we trust the Fairbanks, but in 20 years, we don't know who's going to be running the place and who's going to own the place. So the plan is that, I think the plan is for Cranmore to come back and work with us on a better way for them to be able to update trail signs and, resort signage without it impacting the sign regulations.
All right.
From
So
the town.
basically, the planning board said it's not ready for prime time,
Yeah,
and come back next year and we'll tighten it up.
yeah. I think we'll work with them over the next year to find a way to make it work for the town and Cranmore before next April.
All right. Those are the only ones. The other one that I think those are the only planning board specifically. Charter Commission is number 2, and I was on the Charter Commission, so one might expect that I'm a big proponent of it, and I am. But it does affect the planning board. It doesn't affect the planning board. I take that
No,
back.
I don't think so.
It doesn't. It affects the budget committee, reduces the number of budget committee, increases the number of selectmen to 7 councils actually. So, but I'll ask you anyway. What do you think of it?
Overall, I like it. I think it's good. I know there's been concern about having more selectmen, and it may lead to more gridlock or partisan bickering, I guess. But overall, I think it is a good plan going forward. We're getting bigger as a town, so I don't know if there was ever a plan to have those councilors represent different parts of town, or
Well, there was
can
one.
they be from anywhere?
It's interesting that you say that, because the last time this was attempted to redo the whole charter,
Mhm.
and the whole charter itself, which is what the town is fundamentally based on, hadn't been substantially revised in, 250 years. So when the town was founded in 1765.
Yeah,
So, but they tried, another commission was formed in the early 90s, and that was much more radical than what this charter commission is proposing. And that did propose creating 3 districts in town, voting districts like wards, like voting wards. And that, in fact, it didn't fly even within that charter commission. It was like a 5-4 vote. But so we tried to, basically this charter commission tried to basically create a new structure, update the charter itself, and provide a structure that can allow the town to change and grow going forward. Paul D., talking to him the other day, he was actually, he says it's up to the voters, so he's not going to specifically say, but he thought that we could have gone even further and had to give the town more flexibility, because the state, there's so many state regulations and so forth now that one could argue that the good or bad, that the town administration and town fathers are kind of don't have a whole lot of leeway to do things. But anyway, that was it.
Yeah.
It needs 60% of the vote. So, Eric, if you vote for it and I vote for it, that's 2.
Yeah. So,
All right.
so Chris, civics teacher, pointed out to the kids that a good turnout is 20%. There's 10,000 people in town, so if you need 60%, we need 1,200 people to vote for it.
Yeah.
So
No, it's hard. You wouldn't think 60% is that much harder than 50, but it is.
yeah, it's a big
Yeah.
jump, I guess. But
Anyway,
it's
we
worth
just got a
shot.
couple more minutes. that's all I have on my list of zoning. Tell us why we should vote for you.
Well, I've been at it for a few years, and I'm hoping to stay on and follow through on the changes that we're proposing at the master plan. I think having the same core group for a couple of years while we implement the zoning changes will make the master plan more effective and lead to a better outcome down the road. I think that I wrote a letter to the editor in today's paper, so I'm trying to remember exactly what I wrote, but yeah, I think the master plan follow through is key, and I'm trying to get a handle on the exploding housing market prices by increasing opportunities for housing like we have with the continuum ridgeline plan and Mr. Barsamian's plan by the river that we're waiting on a state permit. I think is the last holdup on that behind TJ Maxx there. So
Is he going to start this summer?
everybody's waiting on the state to give him a driveway permit onto Route 16. So right now, I think that's the hang up. We've approved.
Oh, you have. The
everything.
planning board has.
Yeah. So we're just kind of waiting on one more check mark, I think, on that one.
And is the planning board involved with the? Because he's got some units going in by the old racquetball club.
We didn't give them approval on that one because two of the buildings were going to be within sight of North-South Road. So if they didn't include those two buildings, they probably would have gotten approval for the rest of them. But I know that those two are probably his profit margin. So they're going to come back to us with a new plan, and we'll see what they come back with. I think there was 8 buildings in that lot, and only 2 of them were the.
Right. I think, and according to Rob Barsamian, you only can see the rooftops.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah.
Yeah. And what
It's
about
their
the
side, I guess.
right? That's what he said.
So
So what about, and then the ones that are a little bit north on the left? That's the New Hampshire Housing Project, right?
the yellow ones that are kind of falling down, or there's another lot, or the other empty lot up.
Well, in fact, I don't even know. There's 2 lots there. Then one is being preserved, and the other
Yeah.
one is the
The
development.
credit's going back to the lot
Right.
with the yellow apartments.
That's where they're going to be, where the yellow apartments are.
No, those are 2 separate. Robert's project is by the tennis courts north of the yellow condos there. The state owns that lot, and we've been working with them on site plan review, but they don't build or operate anything. So they're trying to do the legwork on the site plan review so they can go to a developer and say, look, this is what is approved. You just have to.
Right,
take it from
but there
there,
are
so.
there's another housing project a little bit north of that. That's the New Hampshire Housing, right? With the there's a bunch of units there. It's kind of like in back of Home Depot.
Yeah, and part of that was getting site cut off. But yeah, there's another small development in there too. But I believe that's all going to be well to the west of North-South Road.
Oh, okay. All right. There's a lot going on there. It's hard to.
Yeah.
It's hard to keep it straight. Okay. Well, good, Eric. It's been a pleasure, and I wish you good luck.
Well, thanks for having me.
Okay. Thanks, Eric.